Listen, I know that we live in a society that kind of forces us to be in our head. I mean, we have our telephone constantly in our hands. When we go to school, we mostly use our brain, right? So the whole conditioning is about being in your head, thinking, reflecting, all of that. So trying basically to develop the prefrontal cortex, right? And basically, there's also a component of childhood trauma. And this is what I want to discuss in this video because I think that a lot of us, including me, like this is also a video for me because I'm recognizing myself in this pattern of overthinking, being in my head a little bit too much when sometimes I should just be in my body in the present moment, right? And if we look back at our childhood, it does make sense that we develop this defense mechanism of overthinking. Let's imagine you try to express something to your parents, but they neglect you. And it keeps on happening and happening and happening, right? And you go back to your room feeling like shit, right? It's really uncomfortable to feel neglected as a child. What do you do to process the pain that you experience in your body? Well, as a child, you don't know. You don't know. If nobody is teaching you how to handle your emotions, the way you feel and your beliefs and all of that, you don't know. So what do? Well, that's when you develop shadows or defense mechanism, right? To cope the pain, you find a way, your subconscious finds a way to basically help you feel a little better, right? And overthinking is a great way to feel better because it numbs you to actually feel your body. You don't feel your body when you overthink because you're up here. You're not all over here, right? And the thing is, when you develop such a defense mechanism because of your childhood, going to school, and all of that, it's very easy that when you reach your 20s, 30s, and even 40s, right? That basically your whole life revolves around being in your head and constantly thinking. And whichever situation you have in your life, you think. You have a date with a woman, think. What should I say? What should I do, right? Same with business. Think. Same with the health, right? Like you working out and you in your head. Think. Like constantly in your head. You're never able to actually unplug and just be in the now, be in the present moment, be in your body, right? And from my experience and from my study, I can clearly see that when you're too much in your head, it's a shadow aspect of your masculine. Because I've seen on Facebook and YouTube men feeling so proud to be great thinkers, right? I think a lot. I'm almost a philosopher, right? But what if it's just a shadow? What if it's just a defense mechanism? It doesn't look so cool anymore, right? And the problem is a lot of men fall into the trap of identifying themselves with being a great thinker. I don't think being a great thinker is such a great thing. If you look at Elon Musk, for example, he's a great thinker, very smart person, but suffering a lot. And you can see the way he expresses himself, his body language. You can clearly notice that he is not the happiest person in this planet, right? So now the question is, okay, well, of course Elon Musk is doing a lot of great things, but he's not happy. So what's the point? At least that's my perspective. I wouldn't like to do great things and feel like shit. I would like to do great things and feel amazing inside, right? And that's why doing the internal work is an important aspect to help you get out of your head. It's not the only way, right? If you just unplug from social media and your telephone, you will see that you will be less in your head. I've tried this many times, 24 hours, no telephone. right? That means when I wake up, I don't touch my telephone. I put it like in plane mode. So that means I don't receive any notification, none of this. And I just live life without my telephone. And it's a bit weird nowadays because we're so used to have our telephone and use social media and stuff like that. Because as soon as we feel bored, oh, let's watch the telephone, right? So there's definitely an aspect of like, unplugging from social media, but also doing the internal work to heal the root cause that led you to use your thinking to numb yourself, right? So that's when using parts work becomes very appealing, right? Because you're able to identify the actual memory, the actual moment when you were forced to use your thinking, your overthinking, to numb yourself, to feel better about yourself. And when you can change the story, when you can rewrite your internal word, then you don't have to use overthinking anymore to numb yourself, right? Now, it doesn't mean that you will never overthink again, because again, thinking is not just because of trauma. It's because of many things, right? We live in a society where we are required to use a lot of our thinking. So that's why, you need to do the internal work to at least solve this aspect of like being in your body is not safe. Solve that, but then you need to have certain a lifestyle, some practices that forces you to move your RAS, your focus, outside of your head. Because the problem is you've performed so many actions, karma, of being in your head. So when you perform this level of actions to constantly be in your head, you develop the tendency to always be in your head. To break that pattern, it means that you need to consciously decide to do something else than being in your head. And it's really hard, right? So, for example, what I do is an hour and a half every morning of yoga. Traditional hatha yoga. It's not for everyone, and I'm not telling you that you should do that as well. It's my love. I love doing this, and I'm planning to do an hour and a half at least, probably more in a later stage in my life, every day until I die. This is my goal, right? So it's not like, something that I'm just doing right now. I can see myself very clearly doing yoga until my death, right? Because I love this, and I know how powerful it is. But not for everyone. I'm not saying that you should do it, okay? But you need to find a practice. You need to find something that actually helps you move your focus outside of your head. Because as long as you keep on looping in your head, you will never get out of the cycle. And the thing is, your thinking is just a tool. But the problem is that it has become your identity, right? Because how cool is it to be a great thinker, right? How cool is it to be a philosopher? How cool is it to be so smart? Society is valuing these people, right? If society wouldn't value these people, maybe you wouldn't be so attracted to be that, isn't it? Huh? You never thought about it. It's a quite an interesting perspective when you look at it from a different angle, because really, like, society is valuing these people, this way of being. But what if that's not the Holy Grail? What if it's actually a very rudimentary way of living, right? It's a very low aspect of living. Because the interesting thing is, when you start unplugging from the thinking, from like, thoughts after thoughts, like, you realize that there's a different form of intelligence, a deeper form of intelligence. And I know that some of you are gonna think that I'm a little bit weird here, and that's okay, that's the way I am. But when you unplug from your head, from your overthinking, intuition starts to arise. And I truly believe that intuition is real. I'm experiencing it like every day, so I know this to be true in my experience. Now I know that science has no proof of this to be true. So you have all the rights to tell me that I'm bullshitting. You have all the rights. Now, science has discovered things along the years that it believed was not true before, right? Because the whole idea of science is kind of like, I don't know, but let's find out, right? That's the whole idea of science. When science becomes like, this is the truth and nothing else is true, it's not science anymore. Because science is all about discovery, about not knowing, because you can only discover what you don't know. If you know already, why would you even seek anything? So when you don't know, that's when you allow yourself to explore, okay, what is beyond my thinking, my overthinking, my mind, right? And intuition is one aspect that I'm using in my coaching right now, I'm using in my life. I just know things, you know? I cannot explain why, I just know things. And they always appear to be true. Now, I know some of you that have explored intuition have a hard time between realizing, is this my intuition or is this fear, right? But this is when you have to do the internal work to be able to decipher what is intuition and what is fear. Because when you taste your fear, when you deal with your fear, you actually face them and your insecurities and your trauma and your shadows, then you can clearly see, here I'm coming from fear, but here I'm coming from intuition. And you clearly know the difference. And I've come to that place in my life. You know, I'm just 28 years old. I've done a lot of work on my mind. I've been meditating a lot. I've been doing yoga for 3 years now, every single day. I've been doing a lot of internal work for the past 3-4 years. I've done a lot of work, yeah. And I can honestly say, like, without any arrogance, that I pretty much know all my fears at this point. I pretty much know all my patterns. I pretty much know, like, all my insecurities, like all the ways I'm trying to avoid, you know, all the ways I don't feel good enough. And, you know, I've seen it all because I've been just diving deeper and deeper and deeper, right? Now, maybe I'll be surprised and I'll find something new about myself. It's possible. But at this point in my life, I'm clearly seeing, like, the patterns that are just repeating themselves. You know, it's just clear what it is that I'm going through internally. And because I have this level of awareness, I'm much more able to decipher between, okay, this is my intuition and this is my fear. And that's why it's so easy for me right now to trust my intuition and to grow it. And it has become very, very powerful, very strong, to the point that, I mean, like I said, right now I'm coaching from intuition. Like, whenever I have a session with the client, it's just from intuition. I'm not using my thinking. I'm not preparing for the session, right? I'm just using my intuition, and it works really well. You can see my client testimonials on Facebook or in my YouTube channel even. You can see I have a lot of impact. And it's because I'm using a deeper form of intelligence. So the conclusion of this video is, your overthinking doesn't have to define you. You can get out of it. There are ways to get out of it. I would recommend first to do the internal work, to just clean out the fucking, you know, trauma and shadow around it, right? When you clean that, it's much better than to navigate and to start working on, like, feeling more your body, having a practice that forces you to be in your body, changing a little bit your lifestyle, you know, sometimes going to nature instead of constantly being in the city or in your house. Like, go to nature without telephone and see what happens, you know. I'm spending a lot of time in nature. On a weekly basis, I'm going to nature. And it's for a reason that I'm doing this. It's not, I mean, I love nature. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I know that me going to nature is helping me unplug from my mind, because my mind is so fucking strong, brother. Like I told you, I did so much work on this, you know, and it's still sometimes active, right? But I'm much better able to use it when I need it, and then put it aside and be in the present moment in my body and just feel more alive. Because being in your head is a form of suffering in a way. It's not really fun, and I know that you know. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in having a whole course to attract your ideal woman, it's actually like a framework that I teach where basically you learn the masculine alignment process and you can attract more dates like this. Click the link down below. It's for free, so you don't have to worry about paying anything. You just have to give me your email, but you can unsubscribe from my newsletter anytime. And I see you.